Reflecting, as I suppose I do, on Suella Braverman's time as Home Secretary and her handling of policing during protests, particularly in relation to the pro-Palestinian march on Armistice Day, her tenure reveals fundamental failures in understanding the delicate balance between political leadership and police operational independence. And a report published today by the Chief Inspector of Constabulary, Andy Cook, which Braverman herself commissioned, underscores the risks of political interference in police operations, a cornerstone issue in democratic governance and public trust. Braverman's public criticism of the Metropolitan Police, accusing them of playing favourites and exhibiting bias, lies behind all the rising claims about two-tier policing, oddly made by the right wing for the most part. But she ushered in that speculation. She ushered in that divisive criticism. She raised concerns that undermined the police's impartiality. Her insistence that the pro-Palestinian march should be banned, despite the police indicating there was no legal basis for such a move, exemplifies a disregard for operational independence. It's a critical issue that Cook's report highlights, warning of the dangers of perceived or actual political interference in policing decisions. And one of the starkest criticisms made in the report is that Braverman's comments were not only inflammatory, but also ill-informed. I'm not surprised. Her accusations lacked grounding in intelligence and posed the risk of fueling tensions rather than mitigating them, as seen in the backlash she received both from political colleagues and police chiefs. Cook's recommendation that politicians should ensure they're in possession of the full facts before they make public statements is a direct rebuke of her conduct, a direct rebuke of Braverman. Indeed, her approach, particularly in writing an unauthorised opinion piece in the Times, suggests an impulsive, populist, stupid style of governance that she orchestrated, prioritising short-term political capital over the integrity of police operations and public safety. Her accusations of double standards, claiming pro-Palestinian mobs were ignored while right-wing protesters faced stern responses, further exacerbated the tensions and have been repeated again and again and again by right-wing commentators and the right-wing mobsters themselves, risking a narrative that police are politically biased. The fact that more than 100 arrests were made following clashes between right-wing protesters and the police undercuts her claims, illustrating a disconnect between her public rhetoric and the actual events on the ground. By undermining police decisions, she fails to acknowledge that law enforcement operates under strict legal constraints and impartiality, not under the sway of a particular political agendum. Her actions also reflect a broader trend in her tenure of using incendiary rhetoric to stir up division, a tactic seen in her handling of immigration policy and other contentious areas. Indeed, it's simply because of her aggressive rhetoric that one march by the Albanian community occurred at all. The criticisms from Yvette Cooper, Labour's shadow Home Secretary, who called Braverman's remarks, quote, a dangerous attempt to undermine respect for the police, are well-founded. Cooper's assertion that Braverman was deliberately creating division points to a broader issue of using law enforcement and public order as tools for political gain, which ultimately risks long-term damage, reminds us of events in the 1930s, and erodes public trust in the government and the police alike. The report's emphasis on the need for a clear definition of operational independence speaks to a broader malaise in contemporary politics, where the lines between political oversight and operational autonomy are increasingly blurred, or deliberately blurred. Police officers must be empowered to make decisions based on legal criteria already established and public safety already anticipated and assessed, free from undue political pressure from people standing on the sidelines or hiding in Westminster. The instances cited in the report where MPs and local councillors tried to influence police actions further underscore the problematic encroachment of politics into policing. Braverman's tenure as Home Secretary, particularly her handling of protest policing, reveals a failure to respect the foundational principles of police independence and democratic accountability. Her approach, characterised by public confrontation rather than private consultation, not only undermines police leadership but also contributes to a dangerous narrative of political interference and encourages others to follow suit. As I say, the entire rhetoric about two-tier policing comes from Suella Braverman herself. The recommendations of the Cook Report, which call for politicians to tread carefully in their engagement with police matters, are a necessary corrective to the damaging legacy left by Braverman's actions. Her failure to uphold the standards of her office ultimately justify her dismissal and serve as a cautionary tale for future holders of the office of Home Secretary. Braverman was an utter and unmitigated disgrace, not only in terms of her immigration policies or lack of policies, the legislation that she pushed through, but also in terms of her primary responsibility to ensure proper policing in this country. She has left a legacy that was exhibited in the last riots, of people calling out that there is a two-tier police system, two-tier policing. That was her words, her legacy, her gift to history. A divisive, an unreasonable, and ultimately stupid and lazy minister who didn't do her work properly, who didn't think before she opened her mouth, and who has left behind a trail of disaster.